Welcome to Politics Done Right. I am your host, Egberto Willies. This is the progressive program that will take the mystery out of politics. This is the program that will encourage you to make sure government becomes we the people. Whether you are liberal, conservative, or otherwise, you get to air your point of view. Remember, you can also send me a tweet to EGBERTOWILLIES. That is, at Egberto Willies. Let us engage. It is politics done right.
1, 2, 3.
Welcome to one more edition of Politics Done Right. I'm Egberto Willies, your host. Thank you so kindly for being a part of the show. We are going to have a great show for you today. I mean, this guy's agency called me up and said, hey, and not called me up, but sent me an email and said, hey, he wrote a new book. This Tea Party activist wrote a fourth book and interested in talking to him, of which I said, of course. This is a liberal show. This is a progressive show. We speak to absolutely everybody. We fear nobody. So I wanted to have a good conversation with him, not necessarily to convince him of anything, but for people to see when there is a civil conversation between la gente, the people, they can sit down and see what is rational. They can sit down and see, does it make sense? What really is ethical? What really is moral? That sort of thing. So anyhow, title of the show today, This Liberal Talks to Tea Party Activist Author for an Ideological Discussion. Great discussion, subtitle, great discussion between a liberal and a Tea Party activist that illustrates the ideological divide. Interestingly, it is communication in real terms that will likely cause people to change some of their beliefs in the long run, right? You don't have to you don't have to change the minds of the protagonist, right? You allow the ethos, those around you, to see the debate in a manner where it's not shouting and fighting. You allow others to see it. And you know what? For the silent viewer, the person who's sitting back there, they listen. And you know what percolates to the top when you get that? Truth and reality. I interviewed Tea Party activist David Thomas Roberts about his new book, The Death of Liberty, The Socialist Destruction of America's Freedoms Using the Income Tax. I could not get through his entire book, but it was not hard to get to the gist of it, as it was the standard Tea Party ideological stuff. Granted, I like David Thomas Roberts. He's a nice guy. In fact, I would bet my last dollar that if he didn't have a book, that if he didn't have a following, that if he didn't have a whole lot of people, we would sit down and talk and he would say, darn, I never looked at it that way. But when you have so much invested into the other side, I'm going to be honest with you, I don't have anything invested into my side. All I have invested is in truth. And because the way this type of progressive is whenever things change or if things were to change, we don't have a problem changing to a particular way of being, right? That's what it means to be progressive. But when you're a Tea Party person or a right-winger to the core, making that switch is an ideological testament of fortitude. But anyhow, before I get to him, I want to do one thing. The talk right now, did you see your president? Did you see your president retweeting false videos about Nancy Pelosi seemingly drunk? And when he's confronted about retweeting stuff that isn't true, he said, nah. Did you hear what she called me? She said that I was hiding something. She said that I was, what's the word that they used? I was obstructing. She said that I was, like a child. The president is like a kid. Nah. Did you hear what she said about me? That's why I'm doing this. That is your president. That's the guy that has the nuclear, the briefcase that walks behind him with the nuclear codes. That is a guy that's talking about open a war with Iran. That is a guy that wants to go and claim they're going to solve the Palestinian problem. That is a guy that's trying to change all the regulations around this country that's going to kill you. This is a guy who said he's going to do health care. Of course, never. This is a guy who has a trade war. And by the way, I'm not completely against the trade war, but that's another subject. But this is a guy that's destroying things that affect the middle class. You are seeing it in real time. Folks, open your eyes, please. My brothers and sisters that are following Trump, I don't care if you're Republican or whatever, but look at who this guy is. Anyhow, talking about impeachment, Democrats really, you guys know from the beginning, I told Democrats, don't go out there and be impeachment every day and talking about how bad the president is every day. I constantly said, talk to the people. Tell the people what you're going to do for them. Have on the tip, remember the blog that I wrote, have on the tip of the tongue 5 things that you're going to do for them. Numero uno, you're going to make sure that they have health care. Health care for all, Medicare for all. Numero dos, you're going to make sure and handle the student loan crisis. Numero tres, you're going to make sure and handle the family leave. Make sure that everybody has the ability to have family leave. Numero cinco, you're going to make sure and reduce taxes on those where taxes needed to be reduced and raise taxes on those where taxes are needed. Numero cuatro or numero cinco, you're going to also make sure and work on our social justice, economic justice, racial justice problem, all of that combined into one with policy, not dreams. I had some other items on that list as well, but have these things on your tongue and always be able to say it in a district-specific manner. In a district-specific manner. But now it is time. It is time for Congress to concentrate on the investigation is over, so we can do a little bit more talking about it, but it is time now to talk impeachment, and the timidity of Democrats need to go away. And I want to play you a piece by Joanne Reed. I like Joanne Reed, the way she interpreted, the way she said it, because all these people think Donald Trump is going to pull something out of the air that's going to make that if they impeach him, things are going to get so much better like it did, like if the president after Clinton was another Democrat, right? You know, Democrats don't get the right history sometimes. But here's what Joanne Reed had to say, and I want you to listen to this, please. Thank you.
And so now the Democrats' entire response to Trump is predicated on the idea that he's got some master strategy, that he's trying to trick them into impeaching him, right? He's trying to trick them into doing the I word, which he can't even say, as you said. And then he'll fool them, and then he's got some strategy that's going to ignite a wave of Trump affection that's going to come from nowhere, because 52% of Americans already say they will never vote for him. But he's going to ignite this incredible wave, and he's going to be Bill Clinton, and everyone's going to love him. Where is the evidence that any of that is true? Donald Trump is terrified of impeachment. Donald Trump is terrified of humiliation. Donald Trump is terrified of being exposed. That's why he's so freaked out about his business records. If he was goading them to impeach him, if he wanted it, then he wouldn't mind the Mueller report coming out, because he wouldn't be afraid of it. He's terrified. And so the Democrats are more afraid of Trump and more afraid of this magical base that's going to come out of Brigadoon, that's going to fall in love with him when he's impeached, than they are of their own base turning on them if they do nothing.
Now, listen, she made a whole lot of sense. He's more scared, or Democrats seem to be more scared of Trump's base than their own. And they better wake up, because their own is the one that's going to do it. Anyhow, it is time now for us to go ahead, folks, and get to the program at hand. Here is that interview that I spoke to you about. I am here with David Thomas Roberts. He's an author, he's an entrepreneur, he's a whole lot. I mean, anybody who gives themselves the Twitter name Texas Author tells you something. Anyway, he's the author of the book, The Death of Liberty, and further, the socialist destruction of America's freedom using the income tax. My God, David Thomas, before we even get started, why don't you tell me a little bit about yourself?
I'm 60 years old. This is my 5th book. I grew up in Texas, wasn't born in Texas. Grew up, like most Texans, we got here as quick as we could. And married 35 years, 4 children, 4 grandchildren. And a serial entrepreneur. My entire adult life, I've never had a job. I've always been in business for myself.
Okay, so I mean, you're an entrepreneur. Tell me a little bit about what I kind of looked at the whole lot of books that you have, and you have like 4 other books that you've written as well, right?
Right. I've got a book on entrepreneurship, and I've got I started writing political thrillers, fiction based on current events back in 2011, and there's 3 in that series. And I did a business book in between, and this is my first book of this type. With nonfiction. It actually about 2 years worth of research. There's over 250 sources cited in this book. This was like I did not get a college degree, but I can imagine this is like doing a master's or a PhD thesis. It was that involved.
Well, I mean, I did go over it enough, and I also saw the interview that you did with The Blaze. And David, if you could turn the speakers a little bit down more, because right now it's really coming over badly.
There you go. How's that?
Yeah. Okay, that's better. Here's my concern with your book. Your book is fatalistic. What I mean by that, you give the impression that it's all over. Is that how you really feel?
No, absolutely not. And I'm sure you haven't had a chance to read the book.
No, I read the table of contents, and then I read certain select areas that were of interest.
Right. So there are some solutions, but there's no easy solutions to the problems that I lay out in the book.
Now, give me your concept of where we are as a country today.
Well, I think maybe if your audience and you understood, I went through 11 straight IRS audits, most of them during the Obama administration. And
wait, let me stop you there.
Okay.
You said most via the Obama administration.
Eight of the 11 straight audits I had were during the Obama administration.
Okay.
Okay.
And
so,
what was the purpose of those audits?
Harassment would be my opinion.
Okay.
In fact, at the end of the day, if you took, I paid over 8 times more in professional fees to my CPAs and tax attorneys than I ever paid the IRS. And by the way, none of that, they never found that I report all my income, 100%. That's never a question. It's always the battle over expenses and how deductions are taken and those kind of things. So it actually cost me more money to go through these audits from the fees that I paid than the government ever got out of me.
Really?
Yeah, and I would say that's true of a lot of Americans.
And you think that is harassment? Okay, great. So tell me a little bit more.
So on top of that, I got on the no-fly list during the Obama administration somehow. Coming back from the Rose Bowl, I couldn't even board my flight. And then my wife and I, coming back from Antigua after an anniversary, got pulled out of customs in Miami and were interrogated for 12 hours, not given due process, wouldn't charge me anything. All they did is ask the same questions over and over again. So when I was sick of it, sick of the repetitious audits, sick of that, we went and filed 72 FOIA requests with the holder and the Obama administration. And like most of these FOIA requests, we had 0 returned. I still could not tell you today why any of this happened. I have my theories, but
are you an activist or?
Oh, absolutely, yeah.
And you're heavy into the Tea Party movement. In fact, as I understand it, correct?
Yeah, I was very heavy early on in the Tea Party movement, and I'm not part of any organized Tea Party now. So the Tea Party principles, I'm still and I do. I've been very blessed and successful, and I do. Give money to candidates I believe in and causes that I believe in. So I think all of that had a combination. And if anybody thinks that the tax code is not used to punish political enemies, they're a little bit naive.
On all sides, you would say?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, Nixon did it. I mean, so I that's one of the problems with the current system that we have.
Now, let's go now to your book. You start the book with, how have we lost our sense of liberty? How have we lost our sense of liberty?
Well, hey, Roberto, have you ever been through an audit? You ever been to tax court?
Yes, 2 times.
Then you know really well that you lose, all your Bill of Rights is gone in tax court. You have no Fifth Amendment, you have no Fourth Amendment, you actually have no First Amendment. So you absolutely lose those. And we actually got away from the founders. The founders were very clear that they didn't want direct taxes on individuals, and they want direct individuals dealing directly with the federal government. And so during the progressive era, 1890 to 1920, I honestly believe that we're on the precipice of another progressive era. You see the rise of the democratic socialists. You see,
like myself, yes.
You see the like your broadcast that you had, I think, the day or two, the eat the rich philosophy, that everybody's rich, everybody's a billionaire, everybody's a millionaire, must have got it illegally, and we get it off the backs of other people. It's a zero-sum game to folks like you that in order for somebody like me who had nothing when I started, that obviously I had to steal it or do it immorally to get it.
No, I don't. I don't want you to get away with that one.
I knew that'd get a response.
Yeah, I don't want you to get away with that one. Let me tell you where I'm at with that. I want you to go out there and make as much money as you can. Not only do I want that, I want you to be successful at what you do. I just want you to realize that you, no matter what you may think, that you didn't do it on your own.
Well, so you're going to go Obama's way, and you didn't build that, right?
No,
I absolutely didn't do it on my own. I absolutely. If I didn't do it, who did it?
All right, let me explain to you. You're a very smart person, and I the chapters that I read in your book, assuming you're the one who penned it in there, you're pretty damn intelligent. So you know the answer to that. And the answer to
I'm telling you that I worked very hard for what I've done and what I've gotten and what I've built for my family. Very, very hard.
That is true. You've worked very hard, and I will never take that away from you. But in the process of working hard, a lot of people helped you there. You were blessed to be in a country, a wonderful country, where you could do a whole lot of these things on your own. But people like myself, I paid a hell of a lot of taxes that afforded you to do that. I paid a hell of a lot of taxes to build roads.
Your taxes didn't pay anything for me. What are you talking? Actually, you should be thanking me for the taxes that I paid, because I guarantee you my taxes do more to support you than the other way around.
Well, maybe as a political activist, which I make no money now, that's the case.
Yeah, that's the thing about politics. So let me ask you this. Well, wait, I want to challenge you for a minute, okay? So,
yes.
The taxes you paid, I paid fuel taxes to pay for the roads that I use. I pay real estate taxes. I pay taxes. I pay state franchise taxes. I pay corporate income taxes on my corporations. And so I don't know where your taxes help me.
Let me explain. And this is what I try to. Why I make a very good political activist is I don't give somebody like yourself a chance to look at me and say, I am a user, I am a taker, or anything of that nature.
But I didn't say that.
I know. No, I wasn't accusing you. I was speaking rhetorically. Okay. I don't allow that to occur. Why? Because I came to this country. And not only did I come to the country from a foreign land, I came here. I went to the University of Texas.
Awesome. Hook 'em. So am I.
There you go, brother.
I didn't graduate, but that's right.
That's okay. You're still my brother. Anyway, I also went to, I worked for corporate America for 5 years, and then I formed a company and was successful in that company for over 20 years. I paid hundreds of thousands and, well, quite a bit more than that in taxes over the years based on this software company that I had. And the reason I'm telling you that is not for the people that are listening to say, oh, wow. It's in response to your statement. And the reason I'm saying this is very important. You and I have had businesses of our own, and we take a different tact on taxes. I am thankful to the state of Texas for creating the best university system at the time that I came to the country, and the tax dollars that all those people have paid over the years to create that system. And that is what educated me. I believe in paying it forward, and that is in being taxed to do so. So I feel a responsibility to do that. I am generally concerned with those who simply say, I did it. Because I am blessed to have great roads. I'm blessed to have all these good things that this society has given me. And for me, taxes and these other things are give backs. it's always concerns me with people like yourself that don't have that same feeling, and I think it has a lot to do with you having been here.
Well, so let's talk about that for a minute. So I've got, in fact, last night we had a book release party, and the Texas book release party for this book, and I gave credit to a civics teacher that I had that was very influential on me. So I'm not saying that there wasn't people that didn't influence my life and help me, but there isn't anybody like you that paid any of my taxes, that paid that paid my payroll, that went out and worked 20 hours a day. We're all using the same facilities. We all contribute to the national defense. I get pretty tired of that argument that you didn't build it, because if I didn't, who did?
No, it's not. That's a rhetorical question. When we say you didn't build it, we mean you didn't build it alone.
I did build it alone.
You said
absolutely did build it alone. Who built it if I didn't?
Tell me what you built alone.
I'm sorry.
Please tell me, what did you build alone?
I built a business. I built businesses alone.
What did your business do?
Well, I've got several businesses. I got a publishing business. I've got a telecom technology business.
Mm-hmm.
I've got real estate investments. I have a working ranch. I've got numerous business entities.
On your publishing business, you're using computers that were built by other folks and use the technologies from other people that other people paid for. And you were able to use this technology to make more money on.
This Mac computer that I'm talking to you on right now.
There you go.
I paid for that Mac computer.
You paid for that. You partially paid for that computer. You're correct, but you didn't pay.
I paid all of it.
No,
everything. They paid. Apple built a computer and built in the cost, the research and production of that computer into the computer.
Right. And
for the amount that I paid for. So you have to really, Egberto, you got to really understand how economies work, okay?
And that's
so Apple builds that to sell it. They've got the research cost built into the product. Nobody else built this computer for me. Okay, I bought it. They built a product that was worth buying, and we bought it. That's the way capitalism works.
That's a fallacy that what you just said sounds good, but it's not accurate. Example, let me explain. Okay. What happened with you're right. Apple went ahead and they built that Apple computer just fine, but they used the technology created by, guess what? Government. The government created ARPANET. The government created the Xerox Xerox technology.
Tell me one thing. Just one. Yes. Give me one thing. And I can give you one, but I can only give you one. The government does well.
Say that again?
One thing government does well.
Does well?
Yeah, just one. Name one thing government does well.
I mean, government has the same problem people in the private enterprise has, and that is they all do good things and bad things. And
well, I'm just asking you to name one thing that the government is efficient at and does very well at that the private sector couldn't do better.
I think the government does Social Security much better than the private sector does retirement.
Then why don't you give me the opportunity to opt out of Social Security and let me invest my own money?
Because that's not how it works. It depends on you being in there. I mean, that's why it's called Social Security.
System. I mean, and politicians use the money. I understand all that. Really, I'll give credit to the government for one thing, and that's the military. I think the government does the military pretty well.
And you see, that's where you and I are going to disagree. I think the government does military horrendously badly. And the reason why they do it so badly is that they pay more for everything than they have to pay for. And they have the plutocracy, the people, the military-industrial complex, having them spend much more than they have to. So
let me define it, because you know what? I'm going to agree with you on most of that. We're in wars that we shouldn't be in. We're paying $300 for a hammer, and that military-industrial complex is a problem. I'm talking the men and women of the military.
Of course, they're
the
good.
Rank and file, the officers, the missions that they do. I think that part of it is correct. I do believe there's other problems. Exactly, I would agree with you 100% in those other areas.
Right. So let me tell you, I think the fundamental. I mean, I would almost wager that there's a fundamental difference between our. I want to say sort of. I don't want to call it ethics. It's a. And this is why I like to engage with conservatives or folks like yourself, there's a fundamental switch in our brains as far as how much we think somebody else helped and how much we think in society as opposed to individualism. And
so we'll take that. Could I have built these businesses in Guatemala? Could I have built these businesses? I definitely couldn't build this somewhere where it's a socialist. I couldn't do what I've done in Venezuela, obviously.
Venezuela's not a good example, though.
Oh, no, only because it's a socialist example.
No, I would give you a better example. You could do the same thing in Sweden. You could do the same thing in Norway. You could do the same thing in Denmark.
I could, but I wouldn't make as much money.
And
what? I wouldn't make as much money. The tax rates are ridiculous.
But well, it turns out that they're not much more when you total all the taxes that we pay, plus insurance that we pay on the outside, plus the services we pay for our kids. When you add them all up, society is a closed loop. And you either pay it through government, which is more efficient, or you pay it independently, which costs more. And if you
you're paying one way or the other. It's just who can run it better, right?
Right.
That's right. And who gets the choice of how it's done.
And the thing about it is, economy of scale says that the government has to be extremely more inefficient than the private sector for it to do worse. As an example, when we talk about healthcare, when you have to pay executives and all that kind of stuff above and beyond the cost of healthcare, by just simple math, it's more expensive. And trying to relay that message becomes difficult because people don't want to leave their ideologies behind.
Yeah, well, look at the VA. There's your example of government-run healthcare. So
most people like their VA services once they get in.
Nobody I know. Nobody that I know that uses the VA likes them. They complain about it. It's horrendous. Would you go to a VA hospital with a life-threatening disease for open heart surgery? I wouldn't.
Okay, there are myths, and then there's what really happens. My brother-in-law, who had a heart transplant at the VA hospital, and he's doing very well. So I would wager that my sister's husband, my brother-in-law, he's was a captain in the Navy. He uses the VA. He loves it. So
you look at royalty from the Middle East. You look at people from all over the world come to the Texas Medical Center. They go to the Mayo Clinic. They go to Johns Hopkins.
Again,
I don't see anybody
that
here
is
going
not
to Sweden
true.
Or UK or Canada for healthcare.
I wish. Let me tell you what I did before. I'm gonna tell you what I did because my thing is not listening to rhetoric but doing experiments. I'm a scientist. I write software. I'm an engineer from the University of Texas, etc. Let me tell you what I did.
And you know what? I have a software patent, and I've never wrote a lick of code in my life.
And guess what's? And you know what? That's what I'm talking about. You're a smart dude. And not only are you a smart dude, but that is a problem with capitalism. What you just said is a problem with capitalism.
But why is that? Because I employed programmers because I had an idea and gave them an opportunity to have a job.
And who owns a patent?
Benefits. Yeah. So
who owns a patent?
That was their choice to come work for us, and I love them. They do a great job.
Right.
Okay.
And who owns a patent?
But the idea was mine. It wasn't theirs. It was mine.
That's fine. Did you share the patent with them, or did you give them a salary and then it's all over?
No, we don't share that. I mean, there was a work for hire.
That's my point,
patent, right?
And what
wait a minute. Well, okay, before. Okay, so what risk? Had they shared the risk that I shared?
Yes.
Absolutely, they would participate in something like that. But the risk was all mine.
And what is interesting is I hear that a lot, right? And I don't know how much of my podcasts you've heard or the programs that you've seen. We define risk only when we talk about capital risk. We don't define human risk. What was the human risk for them taking the chance to work for you? And we don't ever look at it that way. And that's the kind of things that I'm saying is a problem with capitalism. We only care about capital.
Well, that's not true. The human risk was that they didn't go to another job. I'm not sure what you mean by what the human risk was.
Well, there are
In
many
fact,
things.
all those programmers still work for us. We have long-term employees. They love their jobs. We love them. It's a great culture.
David, I'm saying everything that you're doing is absolutely legal, and everything that you're doing is following the rules that this country was built on. And that's fine. I'm saying that I think there's a better way that we can migrate to. That's all. And when your book, again, I wish I had time to read the entire book of yours. I didn't. But I think what it does is it cauterizes into people's minds that this is the only way to do things, and any changes that are made going forward, any socialist change that's made going forward, is somehow detrimental to the people within the society, or that it makes it wrong.
Let's be clear. Here's what the research proves out, and what's in the book is that when the 16th Amendment was ratified, the whole intent of the 16th Amendment, the United States government was running a budget surplus. They hadn't been in a war in years. The entire intent for the progressive income tax. And by the way, the progressive income tax is the second tenet of the Communist Manifesto. So basically, our entire revenue system that run the federal government is a Marxist ideology. I mean, you may be.
Can I ask you to pause there for a second?
Sure.
I postulate that you're correct right there. Okay, I didn't do the research, you did it, but I believe you. So what's wrong if that's the case?
Go look at the Communist Manifesto. It's right there.
No, but what I'm saying, if we take something good out of a particular document that is otherwise bad, what's wrong with that?
Well, you think the progressive, that's the argument, is progressive income tax is not good. So it's the entire intent of it was social justice through the tax code.
Right.
The income tax was not needed, and then 2 years later, we're in World War I. The rate goes up; it never goes back. So I asked, socialists and folks like you. I said, what is the right tax rate?
Let me tell you what it is.
What is the right tax rate?
I'll tell you. I know what it is.
Okay.
Whatever is needed. No. Let me tell you. Let me be honest with you. Okay. I am not smart enough to know exactly how to do it. Right. I'm not smart enough for that, and very few of us are. What I do know is everything that we've done so far has allowed extreme disparity in wages, in income, and everything else, and that just a few take advantage of the spoils. I think you have to give me that.
Nah, I wouldn't agree with that. So, all right, so I'll give you an example. If my wife and I got married, we lived in I bought a repossessed trailer. We lived in a trailer in a rundown trailer park. We didn't have 2 nickels to rub together. Okay. Mm-hmm. So I've been at a point in my life, I've actually been there a couple of times, but I had nothing. Mm-hmm. I mean, nothing. So I think that everybody has the opportunity. Some have more opportunities than others, but it's not the government's job to decide who gets those opportunities. Everybody was born naked. They have the same opportunities. I had the same opportunities you have. So I think that there are some that get lucky, win the lottery type thing. That wasn't me. It took me years to get where I'm at, and with a lot of sacrifices along the way. And to be honest with you, for somebody that just wants to have a job that doesn't want to make those sacrifices, that's the decision that they made.
So you really think everybody had that opportunity?
I think everybody has opportunities. I think that there's things working against folks. I think our educational system is absolute abysmal, especially the public education system. And I think that, here's some other research I did, Edberto. In the 1700s in the colonies, and when America became a country, America was the most civic literate society in the history of mankind.
You and I going to agree right here.
Right.
Yeah.
And today, look at us. You got college graduates who can't even tell you the names of the 3 branches of government. Yeah. They can't tell you who their senator. They can't tell you how many senators. They think that we fought Germany in the Civil War. I mean, you can point it to a place on a map, but they can't tell you what country it is. And so what you're seeing is where you think it's a lack of opportunity, I think it's a lack of education. I think the education has failed, and I'll blame that squarely on the progressives.
And you see, that's where I don't think it's fair. I mean, you can't keep cutting budgets and somehow think that education is going to improve. One of the first things that they cut when they started cutting budget were civic programs. We have great athletic programs, but no civic programs. I'm with you. People need to learn civics. And I think if people learn civics, then they'll be able to weigh ideologies objectively. They'll be able to say, I want this out of the liberals and I want this out of the conservatives. I think there's...
Well, see, but here's what you guys keep preaching. And so to the uneducated, which I'm gonna call, for instance, the millennials, for the most part, civically illiterate. And so when you have people like AOC and other folks saying that, the reason why you don't have X, Y, or Z is because somebody like me, has it, and it's a net zero game where the more I have, it means the less you have. That's the problem.
That is a fundamental misunderstanding of what AOC is saying. And AOC, by the way,
that's what I heard you say in your previous podcast about the billionaires.
Yeah, let me finish. Though. AOC is very smart, and one of your Republican colleagues went on a panel and he said it is time for Republicans to leave AOC alone because when she comes to our meetings, she's the most informed. And if she takes hold, you guys are in trouble, the people that are pushing that particular ideology. So he's telling Republicans now, kind of lay off of AOC, because she is in fact very smart. But let me tell you what I'm telling you about billionaires now. Do you understand the concept of excess labor?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely. And do you understand trickle-down economics?
Of course I do. It's something that doesn't never work, right?
Well, I'll give you an example of that. I own a Rolls Royce, okay?
Mm-hmm.
When I bought that Rolls Royce, the Rolls Royce dealership profited from it. The salesman that sold it to me profited from it. I have a guy that comes, and washes it every week. There's a lot of people, just a simple purchase like that benefit from me making that purchase.
And I agree with you there. That is how it should work. But you see, we have other factors in there. And let me give you the other factors, right? The fact that you can tax the capital or rather the capital is taxed at a different rate than wage income is a built-in buffer for the wealthy. So those are the kinds of things that we talk about. There is a
why? Okay, so let's talk about that, because I can talk about that because I have investments. So if I've made an investment, let's just say I bought a strip center, okay. And I bought that with after-tax money. I've earned that money, then I went and purchased that. And then 10 years later, I sell it and take a capital gains from that, which is a lesser rate than wages.
Why should it be a lesser rate?
You're asking me to pay taxes twice.
No, I'm not, because everybody paid taxes every time the money is transitioned, and that was a good trickery that Reagan did about being taxed twice. It's not being taxed twice. I'm taxed then many times. Because I buy gas to do certain things with the business, and that is not a good example, but it made good cover when Reagan talked about being.
Well, what about the death tax? What about the death tax? So
there's no death tax. There is not a death tax. There is a. Let me tell you how I feel about that tax. I believe in math. Assuming that you didn't have a wealth, what do you call that, inheritance tax, what would eventually occur from a mathematical standpoint is all the people who have accumulated wealth will gobble everything up. See, that is a mathematical certainty.
So, I'd like to know what economics professor you had at UT, because
it's not. Look, it's
that
not.
goes back to what
it's
you
math.
denied earlier, that there is no zero sum. That the more I have doesn't mean the less somebody else has.
No, let me give an example.
All right, so
David, hold on a second. Give me 2 seconds. Give me 2 seconds, and then 2 seconds. An economy is a closed system. Okay, the economy. If I tell you today that the economy grew at 2%. If I told you that the economy grew at 2% that year, but David Smith, the guy who just gave all those people, the guys at the university,
paid their debt off.
Paid their debt off, okay?
Right.
That guy's worth $5 billion, but not only is he worth $5 billion, but what he does is he is such a great investor, entrepreneur, is he's able to give a return of 22%. Everything he does is legal, and it's right. He's a smart guy. He knows how to use a capitalist system. That's the system he works in. If his clientele is increasing their worth at 22%, but the economy is only increasing at 2%. Right? That means that is extractive, right? Because what is happening there is, since the economy is a closed system, that has to be coming from somewhere else. If it were work, I would understand it. But if it's investment, it means that it is taking a bigger share out of the economy without work.
Well, what if this investment brought value to the economy? That's just like saying, so
it has
you're
brought
saying,
value. It did bring value. I'm not arguing that it did bring
if I
value.
invested in Apple or Amazon stock and the stock grew and I got capital gains off of that, you're telling me that that's taking money out of somebody else's pocket.
Of course. Let me explain how it works. It's a simple explanation. It's not fun. It's simple. Let me tell you how. Bezos is worth $160 billion based on the appreciation of the Amazon stock. The Amazon stock appreciates because they are very efficient in the way they handle their expenses. And what is a part of that efficiency? A part of that efficiency is paying their employees a lot less than they otherwise could. Okay, so what that means
I would
is
argue with you that Amazon builds a better mousetrap. I mean, I recognize it with Amazon. I said, holy crud, I can get stuff delivered to my house. I don't have to go to the store.
Well, Amazon is a monopoly that also got me out of money. Let me tell you what Amazon did. Let me tell you what Amazon did to me, okay? Back in the 1980s, Amazon patented something called one click. It was how you click on the screen to purchase the product. They patented that. I never heard of that. I created a product that was a shopping cart, or I was creating a product that was a shopping cart like that. And when we started doing some searches, we realized that we couldn't use that click. So I had to do something else. I did serial communication on Windows that made, and by the way, your name, DTR, is a piece of my software. but what I'm saying, David, is this. Yes, the people who make a whole lot of money off of stock appreciation is based on it's based on the efficiency of how the management ran that company. And that efficiency also includes paying as little as they can for labor, as little as they can for everything. So therefore, when we talk about a zero-sum gain, that is where we're talking about. In other words,
well, in order for that theory, and that is a theory. It's not a theory, it's a fact. In order for that theory to work, that means that the market forces. For instance, I'll tell you something. You're talking about software programmers. Mm-hmm. There's good ones, there's outstanding ones, and there's bad ones, right?
Right. True.
So we pay what we are required to pay, what it takes to hire a top-notch software programmer. And it's not as little as we can pay. We want people to make a living and have a great lifestyle. But you have the theory, and many like you, that corporations are evil, mm-hmm. and they pay people little on purpose.
Yes, they do.
They're profit driven. There's no doubt about that.
Yes, they are.
But you also got to remember that you can't get good people if you're not paying competitive wages.
But here's a kicker. Yes, you can. When you have a fearful, remember, it's not a science. When you create an economic condition in which people are more concerned about having a job, they'll work for anything. And that's where we are in an economy right now. We are in an economy where people are just, in as much as we supposedly have full employment, they are just happy to have a job.
Well, I guess we must run in different circles because listen, it's a very competitive job market right now. If I have employees, we worry about other companies stealing our employees, or we want to keep our people. So you have to pay them what they're worth. And so I reject that all.
So I have to ask you a simple question then, David. Mm-hmm. How can we be in such a, you're right, we are in a very tight job market right now. To what do you attribute that wages are not really going up?
Well, I think they are, but I think some of the skill sets, the people that are not seeing the wage growth is because their skill sets are not there. So it goes back to an education problem again. Okay, they don't have the skill sets. They don't. You have people going and getting college loans to take an art. To get $120,000 in debt for an art degree. And there's nothing wrong with an art degree, but I don't know how you're going to pay back a six-figure college loan
right,
when you're majoring in something that you can't get paid for.
No, you can't. There are certain, I personally think college education should be free of charge for people who can hold the grades. But, again, that is a difference in ideology that's debatable.
It always goes back to who pays for it. It's not free. Somebody's got to pay for it.
Yeah, and the corporations pay for it, and let me tell you why. Because when I became an engineer, the state of Texas, I paid 10 times what the local person paid. In other words, the Texas resident paid $4 an hour in my days. I paid $40 an hour until I became a Texas resident. I think in my last year or something where I paid $4 an hour. But still, that was below the cost of education. Your father and your relatives helped pay for my education. So when you talk to them, tell them that you were interviewed by this damn liberal who really thanked them for that education that they helped defray when I came to the country. So I thank them for that. But when I was first hired by NL Industries as a senior software engineer, they benefited from what all the taxpayers did. So they got somebody that was ready and able to work for them. Okay? And that is a symbiotic relationship I want everybody to start acknowledging between corporations and people and businesses.
Well, a lot of corporations, for instance, we pay for continuing education for our, we pay.
That's good. That's very good.
So I think there are worthwhile programs like that out there. If I want my people to get more educated, and I give them incentives to get more educated.
And that's good, David. Look, let me tell you something, David. My goal with what I do is not to disparage you. I disparage the system. You're playing by the rules of the system. Okay? I disparage the system. I think you're an honorable person. I'm not just saying.
But let me
finish. I, just like Smith played by the system, the billionaires, everybody played by the system. I want the system to be more egalitarian. I'm not trying to take away all that you think you are owed or made, because I think you think you are owed more than you are, but that's debatable. What I do want is I want a system where everybody has real equal access to success. I don't think they do. We have that right now. I know you think they do, but I think after.
Let me ask you, Roberto, who is it you think that owes me? That I think owes me? Because I don't think anybody owes me.
No. What I'm saying, I think you think you're owed. I think you're owed more. No. I'm saying I think you believe when you made a statement earlier in our conversation where you said I did it on my own and I would make less money in Sweden. And you would make less money in Sweden, but I think you should make less money in Sweden, because I think there are a lot of externalities that businesses don't see that they are a part of when they become very insular. There's a lot of externalities that's paid for them. I know you think you're this independent man. I do know that, and that's what's taught to a lot of folks under your ideology. But I say it's more humbling when you realize that you're more dependent on others than you realize.
Well, I have to have employees. I have to have customers.
I get it.
Right. I mean, me sitting here by myself, I can make the best I can make the best product in the world. If you got nobody to sell it to, nobody to make it, nobody to run it.
Exactly.
Absolutely.
I think we need to close on, so I'm going to ask you to talk a little bit about just give a little plug for your book, because I do want people to buy your book and read your book. I don't agree with your book, but I think people who listen.
Well, you don't know. You haven't read it yet.
I don't agree with it.
Bring me back after you read it.
No. I can't. It's too difficult. It really is. I mean, let me tell you, when I started to read the book, I wanted to come to you and say, "What the hell is wrong with you, brother?"
Well, here's what I always ask people that, and I'm not afraid to talk to you. I go on liberal programs all the time.
I know.
Because it's fun to debate, and so it comes down to the premise for somebody like me, Roberto, is is how much money of mine does somebody else want? They can think they can do. We got to the greatest country in the world from 1776 to 1913 with no income taxes, no direct taxes on individuals. The greatest country in the world. Okay, since we've had the income tax, now we have $19 trillion deficit, whatever it is. Okay, there's no balanced budget. We're spending money. Politics.
What do you propose?
Do what?
What do you propose other than an income tax?
I'll tell you what I propose. There's a couple things that have to happen. First of all, nothing's going to change without political will. It's kind of when I grew up with the Berlin Wall, and we never thought the Berlin Wall.
Let's forget about that. We don't have much time. I want you to tell me, and I'm willing to listen. If you don't like the income tax, what is better than an income tax?
Well, I like I like aspects of the fair tax. Okay?
Regressive, but go ahead.
Well, regressive. Well, hey, the system we have now is regressive. If I make $1 million a year, if that's my gross taxable income, then I'm paying more than somebody who's a percentage of my income more than somebody who's making $50,000. What is fair about that?
Let's tell people the truth. You pay the same amount of income tax on the relative amount of each level that you're at. So on your first $100,000, you're paying a little bit of taxes, and it goes up progressively. I am for a 90% tax rate eventually. Okay, and the reason, and from a mathematical standpoint, David, and I wish I had more time to go through that, but when we look at it mathematically speaking, right, unless we recover, Bill Gates you know why Bill Gates is giving away all of his money, and why these guys, there's something that they realize. It is mathematically unsustainable the way money grows, and eventually you grow to take it all. I mean, and it's not because you're bad, it's just math.
No, it's absolutely not true. That's it's actually on the edge of communism that you're actually speaking of.
No.
In fact, that's the goal of anybody that's a socialist is for it to be communism.
Because, I want people to be rewarded based on what they're willing to work. I want you to have more money than
why would any individual, have to pay a different tax rate than the next citizen? I mean, you think the
Let me explain.
Founding fathers are rolling over their
because a financial system, an economic system is not divine. It is created so that an economy can function. And for those who work the most, they should have the most money. For those who work less, they would have less money. I agree with that concept. The thing about it is there is an aberration in capitalism where it's not that you have more money, it's that your money grows exponentially. And that is an issue. And it's unsustainable.
Somehow we've gotten in this capitalist system, a couple hundred plus years. So
right, and that's why
perfect. There's no
and that's why it's dying. That's how long it takes to die. It will die if we don't make.
It won't die because of that. It'll die because of ideologies like you have.
No, it'll die. Let me tell you something, David. You want to have me because I want a peaceful transition into a more egalitarian society. You want me, otherwise people come into you with a pitch.
Well, there is no such thing. Look at every society that's tried to do that. Look at Stalin.
Sweden.
Look at
I keep using Europe.
Look at every society that's tried to do that, and it ends up killing people.
No, that's not true. It sounds good for Venezuela, and when you look at what happened in Venezuela, we had a big hand in what happened in Venezuela. Trust me, from a Central American guy, I know what happens with the CIA, you don't. Okay, so I know what happens down there. You could not have a democratic socialist government sitting on a pool of oil because it would set a bad precedent. Remember that. Anytime you hear about Venezuela, remember that. The United States would never allow a democratic socialist state sitting on top of a pool of oil because it would set a bad precedent for the United States.
Yeah, and how much of that oil do we get now? None.
True. Yeah, you're right. Yeah, but hey, David, give a plug for your book. I enjoyed talking to you. But I think this conversation, even though we don't agree, this is a good conversation because people get to pick pieces out of what they think, right, ideologically speaking, and kind of make sense out of it. But talk about your book.
The Death of Liberty, the Socialist Destruction of Our Freedoms Using the Income Tax. 2 years of research. It's even if you're from Egberto's side of the aisle, I read books that I don't agree with because I want to learn how the other side thinks. So that would be my plug. It's available everywhere.
And I agree with David there. I think you should read it. David is going to actually send me a copy of the book that's going to be easier to read. I hope he's going to send me.
It's on Audible too, Egberto. If you do that, if you want an Audible, I'll send you a link to a free Audible.
Send me the Audible. I want the Audible. I want to listen to the Audible. Let me tell you something to my audience here. I like David. David is a guy with a big personality. I can see anybody who calls himself the Texas author has a huge personality. And when you see him with the hat and the whole works, actually, David, let me do something for the audience real quick. I want to show them something.
Sure.
Folks, that's David for you, buddies, okay? Does that tell you a man with personality or what? All right.
Egberto, I enjoyed it. It's, we don't agree, but we can, that's great. We can sit here and debate. So
it was a pleasure speaking to you. I thank you for talking to me. Much success on your book. Yeah. But to my audience, read the book and remember what we've learned on Politics Done Right.
Hey, Berto, have a great Memorial Day weekend.
You too, my friend.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. I hope you enjoyed that interview. I had a lot of fun with David. We're at 3:56. I didn't realize the interview went that long, so I got to do my spiel real quickly. Please, folks, remember this is a political show. This is a progressive show. Please go to patreon.com/politicsdoneright. Again, that is patreon.com/politicsdoneright, and support our program. You see the kind of work that we do. I was speaking to somebody earlier today, and they told me, well, like, Berto, there are some people that simply will never change. And I said, first of all, when I'm talking on the radio, when I'm talking on social media, when I'm talking on air, wherever I'm talking, I'm generally attempting not to talk to one person. I'm attempting to talk to many people. And what I try to do is make the dialogue between myself and the other person, even when as they disagree, to be informational. My goal is, as you heard that interview with that interview in a civil manner with that Tea Party or David, that you could pick out of that and say, you know what? When David said that and Egberto responded XYZ, that made more sense. That's what I'm looking for. I am looking to use folks like David as a good backstop so that we can refute ideas point by point. If it's not going to change anybody's ideology overnight. It's not going to change people that say, oh, I've seen the light. That is not how it happens. Please go to patreon.com/politicsdoneright and support our program. It's very, very inexpensive, but we do need it to stay alive. Likewise, you can always go ahead and go to store.politicsdoneright.com and get our cup, our mug. But not only our mug, we have T-shirts and all kind of stuff with that nice logo. And when you say politics done right, you would be telling people right there, we support doing politics right. We want to make sure that politics is done right because it's how it solves problems for us all. So please go to patreon.com/politicsdoneright. Likewise, folks, anybody who subscribes, of course, you get to read all our books online. As I see it, Class Warfare, the only resort to right-wing doom. That teaches you everything there is to know about understanding our economic system currently, which would kind of segue you into, wow, we really need to do X, Y, Z to the economy. Also, I'm writing the book, How to Make America Utopia, Take Away the Economy from Those Who Rigged It. As I get more chapters out, I put it on. You can read it as a subscriber right away. And of course, I've told the story to you guys of me losing a whole lot of weight and to bring my blood pressure down, which at one point maxed out at 240 over 140. Yes, stroke, that was stroke material. Luckily, I didn't get the stroke, but I changed my life over the years and been able to keep it off, lose weight, and be fit now. Say no to snake oil weight loss. Folks, we are at the end of the program. I want to thank you so kindly for having spent this time with me. I hope you enjoyed David Thomas Roberts and his book. We'll be back sometime on Monday. Not sometime. We'll be back again at 3 o'clock on Monday. You know how I end the show. My name is Egberto Willies. And you know what? This is Politics Done Right. And I am what? Out!
Welcome to Politics Done Right. I am your host, Egberto Williams. This is the progressive program that will take the mystery out of politics. This is the program that will encourage you to make sure government becomes we the people. Whether you are liberal, conservative, or otherwise, you get to air your point of view. Remember, you can also send me a tweet to EGBERTOWILLIES. That is, at Egberto Williams. Let us engage. It is Politics Done Right.
1, 2, 3, 4.
Welcome to Politics Done Right. I am your host, Egberto Williams. This is the progressive program that will take the mystery out of politics. This is the program that will encourage you to make sure government becomes we the people. Whether you are liberal, conservative, or otherwise, you get to air your point of view. Remember, you can also send me a tweet to EGBERTOWILLIES. That is, at Egberto Williams. Let us engage. It is Politics Done Right.
1, 2, 3.